This is Jayson Jorgensen. It is once again time for Husker Chat, brought to you by Acres Equipment, as we talk Husker football with the publisher of HuskerOnline, Sean Callahan. Nebraska with a bye last week, back at it this week. They take on Northwestern. Sean, it seems like that win before the bye has certainly got some folks fired up, and Nebraska has to feel they have some momentum going into this one against Northwestern.
Yeah, they got a big win in Illinois, but it's like they got a win on the bye week too. I think when you look at the opponents they play and kind of how things looked, I mean, you had Illinois beating Maryland on the road, who at the time Maryland looked to be maybe the fourth best team in the Big Ten. So that gives that win even more credibility. And then you look at the rest of the teams on the schedule. They went a combined 1-4, with Iowa beating Wisconsin being the only win. So it's a very manageable stretch. Everybody knows it. But I think Matt Rhule is very cautious to look ahead because, look, that's been half the problem with Nebraska football. I think you kind of want to skip steps of building a program back up. And Matt Rhule, that's his job. Like, keep these kids focused on a team that beat Nebraska a year ago in Ireland.
Sure, most of the Big Ten West looks at this the same way Nebraska does. They've got to say, hey, we could win all these or we could lose all these.
No doubt. I mean, you're going to see a lot of games every week where the point spreads are close, and it's going to come down to ball security, execution on third down, tackling, punting. It's not going to be sexy. You look at the offenses in this division, the offenses range from 250 yards a game in Iowa to 399 yards in Wisconsin. So there is not an elite offensive unit in this division. There's very good defense, though, very good special teams. And you've got to find ways every week to probably get 24 to 30 points. And that's going to win you most weeks in this remaining schedule for Nebraska.
Let's veer off course a little bit. How about the Iowa Hawkeyes? Have you ever seen anything? I mean, how are they doing? I mean, it is truly ugly football. They have won this way before, but wow, to just be so one-dimensional and still win football games in a way is almost impressive.
Yeah, Kirk Ferentz has just kind of said, hey, this is who we are. And, I kind of chuckle that they have these metrics in there for his son on the contract, when I think only one offense right now in the Big Ten West would be able to keep their offensive coordinator on those metrics. So I don't see how that's going to go, because Iowa could go 11-1 or 10-2 right now. And I think 10-2 is likely. But they've lost their quarterback. They lost their two tight ends, but they have at least figured out a formula how to win. And it's impressive. I mean, there's a lot of good, everyone's going to give a lot of credit to Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State for the jobs they're doing with those teams. But what Iowa's done, considering the circumstances, it's an equally impressive coaching job to have that team where it's at, where they could maybe go 11-1.
Today on Husker Chat, we're joined by Sean Callahan. We talk Nebraska and Big Ten football. Sean, Nebraska already came out this week and said Heinrich Haarberg is going to start at quarterback. That surprised you at all?
No, I think Matt Rhule tried not to make it a big deal. He didn't want to make this and I've got one big announcement to make. I mean, I think he wanted just to kind of say, yeah, Heinrich's going to be the guy. He's played well. He's 3-1. He'll start, and Jeff will be ready to go. So I do think Matt Rhule has handled that situation like a pro, and that's how Matt Rhule always is. He knows how to, handle and address situations like this. And Haarberg has earned it. The biggest difference is he hasn't turned the ball over like Jeff Sims did. And he's made plays that easily could have been turnovers. The difference was his weren't turnovers, and Jeff Sims had the 8 turnovers over those first 2 weeks.
All right, this week, the Huskers back at home. They take on Northwestern. I'll tell you what, I'm surprised Northwestern's 3-3 after what all went down this summer for those guys. I wouldn't have thought they would have had much of a product on the field, but I guess in a way you have to give credit to David Braun and that coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, they had the 2 non-conference wins. Beating Howard is expected, but I think beating Minnesota, especially being down in that game, that's the one that gets your attention, because obviously Minnesota, at least at that time, you're like, wow, that's a major upset considering the lead the Gophers blew in that game, that Northwestern was able to win that game. And David Braun had no connections to the Northwestern program until he got there this season. So for him to step into those shoes for that situation, it's really impressive, because I think most thought this is going to be a 1-11, maybe 2-10 team, and he's got them already at 3 wins.
What have you seen from them? It looks like they've had some issues on offense, but defensively they haven't been bad. They've found a way to stay in some games.
Yeah, I mean, they're like a lot of teams in the Big Ten West. Everyone's pretty limited right now in this division on offense. You know, they've had quarterback injury issues, just like a lot of teams in the division. I mean, but Northwestern's ranked 120th nationally in total offense at 306 yards per game. So they're not going to light the scoreboard on fire with points and drives. I think the biggest question is, will Ben Bryant be back this week, or will Brendan Sullivan get the start at quarterback? I mean, they've had to kind of battle and navigate through that quarterback situation, like Nebraska, like Iowa, like Wisconsin, like Illinois. It really is amazing when you look at the Big Ten West, the number of teams that have had quarterback injuries in this division.
I guess it's probably not a surprise that Nebraska is a favorite in this game, but are you surprised by the line at this point?
Not really, because it's in Lincoln. It's coming off a bye. I mean, I do think Nebraska's playing pretty well. I mean, they went on the road and beat Illinois by 13, and that game could have been a lot more than that. I mean, I think that could have been a 41-7 type win, or 34-7, and they still won by 13. So I think Illinois is a lot better than Northwestern, and I think that game was on the road. This one's at home. It's off a bye. It's going to be gorgeous weather. So there are a lot of factors in the game, but I do think the crowd will be a nice lift for this team to come back home, especially on a really nice Saturday afternoon in the stadium.
All right. Hopefully Nebraska can get off to a good start and a pretty favorable last 6-game stretch of the season. Sean, as always, we appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jayson. I appreciate it.
And that was Sean Callahan, the publisher of HuskerOnline, joining us for Husker Chat. We're here every week. It's brought to you by Acres Equipment. I'm Jayson Jorgensen.